All right. Good morning, Michael. I'm thankful that you're here and willing to allow me to interview you today. And for anybody watching, people are always curious about who starts businesses, why, what's it like, and they want real life examples because it's scary. So I really want to know about your background. I remember way back when you just landed in one of my workshops. So what were you doing? What brought you to my workshop, and why did this all start for you?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the time. Absolutely. Well, I was completely lost. I was in a job that I was running back and forth, had really spent zero time at home. I have three little ones, a wife, and I was frustrated. I was in this since 2008, when everything happened. I was really in this sort of spiral of situations, and I was really kind of grasping at anything. And I was at that point trying to make an attempt to see if I could really start looking at starting my own business. But yet, with all the information that was out there, with so much that the internet offers and stats and readings and whatnot, you just get overwhelmed with just all of that minutia.
Agreed. It's daunting, really. There's so much information. Everybody wants to do research, and I always tell people, I think everybody goes at this backwards. They get online and they start looking for businesses that they think are attractive to them, but those businesses may or may not be a good fit, or they may be too expensive, or whatever the case may be. And it really starts with you and your personality and your individual goals, getting all that down on paper first, and then really going out and looking at the business. So talk about your process. What was your experience like once we started working together in that process of finding a business?
Well, that's the part that I'm so gratified about, because right before getting to you, I was, of course, searching the internet and Googling, and you can buy anything right on the internet. And I would go on there and I would make searches, and I would look at businesses, I would read stories, and just inundated with all of the information that was out there. And I remember getting an email because I probably had signed up on franchises of whatnot. And I got an email that you were holding a seminar down in San Diego. And at that time, I was working with a client down in San Diego. And that's how I got into your course. I remember you standing there and saying, well, we're going to do an exam or a test, a personality test. And I'm thinking to myself, I can pass it. I'm okay. I can pass it. And you're like, no, 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 no. Hold on a second. This isn't one of those things. It's really just your personality and behaviors test. And I was like, okay, fine. And I remember taking that exam and taking that test, and you coming back with some results, and then coming back with a couple of different ideas. And of course, Citywide being one of those three ideas that you had given me. And so at that point, I realized that, my gosh, I had really gone about this backwards. I had really thrown myself out there, um, believing and thinking that I could figure it out, which I think is great for a person that is maybe living at home or just graduated from college and they can build something out of a garage. But when you have a family, when you have three kids, and you're already, tied into a lifestyle, and you have a certain set of income that is coming in, that is really the handcuffs that are challenging to kind of break away from. And I think that that's where a lot of folks kind of really get stumped, feeling that I know that I'm not really happy, but the money's okay. And I'm okay with my situation. I guess I can just push it out another 20 years.
You bring up a really good point, because I always say in my workshops and, when I'm talking to people about business ownership, there's always fear involved with this. This process, when we first got on the phone this morning, before I hit the record button, you asked me about the medals hanging behind me. And those were earned from the stress of starting a business. 3 months after I lost my job, you talked about 2008, 2009. market's imploding, I lost my income. I just put my shoes on every day and I ran out the front door. That's how I dealt with the stress. And in the meantime, I earned those medals hanging behind me. I ran my first full marathon 3 months after I lost my job. So the fear was overwhelming, actually. So here you are. I can't remember if your wife worked, but I know you had a significant income as the head of the family. So how much fear was involved in walking away from that with a wife and 3 children? And then was she risk averse at all?
Right, right. So my wife was working at that time, and she works for the state. And so that's been her job since the day she graduated from college. And so that's all she knows. I think the fear for me was that when I told her and I described what I was looking at, she looked at me and she said, well, that is you. And you know that I'm just not built for something like that. And I need to keep doing what I love to do. And so I was respectful of that. So there was there was that support, one of the biggest things is, there was benefits there, right? I
Right.
had healthcare from my wife.
Yeah.
And so, but I was obviously taking this big leap of, there was going to be no salary. There was going to be really a lot of unknowns. And so that was really the fear of not knowing what was going to actually be coming of my working days.
Will you replace your salary? How long will that actually take?
Right.
Yeah. So you chose Citywide. What other types of businesses did you consider, and why did you choose Citywide?
Yeah. So before talking to you, I was all over the spectrum. One of the probably the biggest thing for me that got me looking into business, and really, the one individual that I really admire is my father-in-law. He owned a spice company for about 20 some odd years, which he got into after he had actually lost his job. And so it was something that he knew nothing about. He bought a business from someone that he came across, and he built it to a point where he was pretty comfortable, and he did well for himself, and his wife worked alongside him, my mother-in-law. And at the time I was looking for a business, I did look at his business. And so I looked at things like that. I looked at a small market. I looked at food trucks. And it was just about really just anything that I was trying to figure out what made sense for me. I don't know if you recall, but you had given me 3 ideas, and one of them was a dental repair business,
Yes.
which they repair tools. The problem with that for me was that I was looking for a business that I could truly grow and manage out. And that was more about the individual having a van and making the fixing of these tools. And so to some degree, it was limited in my sight, at least. The other one was a hair salon, a bit of a higher end hair salon.
Yep.
And for me, I'm a guy that gets a haircut at a barber still. So I just didn't really, I did chat with them, and I know that one of the conditions that you give is that you got to vet it out.
Yeah.
And so I did each one. I interviewed, and I vetted it out. But the one that just really right from the get-go was Citywide. And the biggest piece from Citywide was the reoccurring business. And that was the one thing that I totally clicked with in the financial world. When you have things like financial instruments like bonds or insurance, where the interest is reoccurring, that's what I saw in Citywide. And that's what I loved in the business aspect, was that you could build a business on something that if you did the right thing by your clients, it would ultimately would be reoccurring.
Right.
And that's where I really, really dug into and I loved out of the gate.
So take us back. It's been a few years now. What
Yeah.
year was it when you signed your franchise agreement, and walk us through till now? And don't forget to mention that you just won an award as a franchisee. So give us the Reader's Digest version of signing your franchise agreement, what year it was, and walk us through to today.
Yeah. So that was 2015. I actually signed the paperwork with 12/31/2014, but I didn't start the business until April 1st of 2015. And so I remember signing that document, and walking up to that point of signing that document, I was scared. I was really scared because I had these funds that ultimately were going to carry me through, my pro forma that I had built out with the franchise. And that's the biggest thing that I was looking for, was that I was looking for a plan, in essence, that was, nothing's ever 100%, right? Nothing's ever guaranteed.
Right.
But you can set yourself up in a way that the averages are a bit better than just simply 50-50. And that's what I saw going into a franchise. That's what I saw going into Citywide, was that I was getting myself into a relationship with individuals that I loved. Citywide, based out of Kansas City, perhaps some of the best people ever. Mm-hmm. Jeff Odo and the folks that he has working there was something that I fell in love with when I did my first visit out there. And so I knew going in that I was getting into a relationship that these individuals had my best interest. They were not so concerned about making $1 off of me. They were more concerned about making several dollars off of me as I grew my business. And I was on board with that. So I got started with one employee, and it was challenging. It was a struggle, but you learn obviously as you go. And it was that crawl to walk to run effect. And over the years, I've had highs, I've had lows, and at the end of it, although I averaged out pretty well. Mm-hmm. And I think that for folks that are looking, for folks that are thinking that this is going to be easy, obviously it's never going to be easy. No. It's blood, sweat, and tears. And believe me, there was tears in the first couple of years. And now you get to a point where you learn, and you get the phone rings, and it's one of those calls that is probably not going to be a great call. And you've learned to, I guess, just kind of work through it. And everything can be worked out. And just like your decision on moving forward on a business, it can be worked out as long as you have that mentality that you're okay with the outcome. And so at this point, we've really have gone to a point now where we have a staff, and that reoccurring piece is a lot richer than expected, and things are really going in a positive route. But the worrying never stops really, because at this point is, well, now how do I get it to that next level?
Right.
And so it's that continuous tug and pull of the business of making right choices, or perhaps making wrong choices, but how do we fix it? How do we learn from it? And I have really loved it. And looking back at my situation before I got into it, I believe it's actually scarier to work for someone than to truly go out and do something for yourself, looking back at it. Because I did go through a lot of job changes. I did hit 2008 and did lose position and whatnot. I look at what happened to me last year, and COVID obviously did help my business.
Yeah.
So here's kind of a situation where, you know, there was a very dark moment for all of us, but yet business fared very well at the end of the day.
Yeah, there are a lot of businesses like yours that actually did very well during COVID because of the services that they provide. And you just won, for last year, you won Platinum Franchisee.
We
And
did.
tell
We
us what it
did.
takes to win that award.
Yeah. So for that award, you got to keep a retention of 88%. So that means that you're holding on to your clients. The other portion of that, which is a challenge, is you got to add $1 million, brand new dollars to the bottom line.
Wow.
The other piece of it is that you got to sell 33% of NJS, which we call non-janitorial services.
Uh-huh.
And so that means that you're adding on top of your reoccurring business, you're adding that 30+% on top of it. And so we had, out of 70 different offices across the country, we totaled out with 15, which is the largest this year, that actually won that award. So it was very cool. When the year started, all I was looking for was $1 million. I wanted to grow by $1 million, and that was the goal. And we hit that in August.
So to be clear, your goal wasn't to have $1 million in gross revenue. It was to grow $1 million.
Grow $1 million on top of what I had done previously.
Okay. That's a big goal.
Yeah. But we started the year with a great staff. We were aligned, and I think that originally, and this probably goes for a lot of folks, is that you come into a business, you come into a situation, and you feel that, well, I know they're telling me to do it this way, but I think I can better the situation. And it took me about a year to realize that I had bought a franchise and I had bought a model. So why am I not following it?
That happens a lot. And it's
Right.
crazy because you're paying money for the secret sauce and the recipe. Why wouldn't you follow it?
Right. Well, and that's because maybe sometimes I do add hot sauce to my food, or I like some salsa on top of it. But you know, it took me about a year. It took me about a year to realize that, gosh, I need to realign myself here.
Good for you. I'm glad you realized that, because some people don't.
Right.
You know, they continue to fight that battle. So looking back at this experience, would you have done anything differently?
The only thing I would have done differently is I would have, you know, stuck to that recipe right from the get-go.
Yeah.
You know, I would have listened right, you know, right down the line. But other than that, you know, obviously running into Franet, running into you right out of the gate was just really a blessing. I don't know where I would have been if I didn't have that sort of guidance along the road. I probably would have, you know, at that time I was helping small banks put broker dealers together, and I would see the work that I would do with them, and I would come back a year later and they had this business going, and I said, I kept on thinking to myself, my gosh, why can't that be me? Why can't I have that business? I just didn't have the know-how really of what I needed to put myself into.
Mm-hmm.
And going through Franet, going through you, having that guidance really allowed me to narrow in on Citywide.
Thanks. Great. I'm glad, it's so many people, I think, try to do this on their own. And I think one of the biggest fears they have is they don't want to pay for a consultant, and they don't realize that my services don't cost them anything. So the franchises pay us to help them recruit great people like you, because the franchises are not looking for people. You didn't need janitorial experience for Citywide.
No.
They are looking for people that know how to run a business, people like you. And, you said something really interesting. You said that you feel having a job is less secure than owning your own business. And one of the things that we talk about right now, and what a lot of our clients are looking for, the term that comes up is they want income security, because job security is not there anymore. So my question to you about that is, have you met your financial goals, your income goals, and do you believe that now you have income security?
Absolutely. Absolutely. With the way that the business is actually built, we're supposed to be doing at least 70%, which is reoccurring. Last year was a little bit different. We had a lot of the additional stuff add on to it. But once the metrics are met, the income security is definitely met. And at this point, yes, at this point, I'm looking more about not so much, working in the business, but more about working on the business. And that means hiring, training, expanding, looking at other areas that, a vertical that lines up with the business now. So that's the part that gets really cool, because now you can really kind of tinker with things that can possibly be a lot more profitable at the end of the day. So those are the kind of things that are kind of cool versus, the first couple of years where you're just struggling and banging on doors and begging for business.
Yeah.
And you're uncertain about, making it. But yes, that is the challenge. That is the struggle that we deal with is, how soon can we get there?
Right.
And I talk to a lot of folks. We have this open communication here with the franchise that they do bring us folks that are interested. And so I do talk to a lot of individuals. We do calls and Zoom calls and whatnot. And that's usually the question that comes in, is that I only have so much. How long before will it be before I get there?
Right.
And, the only thing I can say is that you need to have this much in sales before you can get to that point, because it can be measured. And that's the part that is really cool, is that, you can come and ask me, well, how long will it take before I make X amount of dollars? And I can look back at you and say, well, you would have to make this much in sales to cover these costs before you can make that dollar amount. And so that's where the ball is kind of thrown back on the individual of, can I make that happen?
But that's also the nice thing about the franchise model, is that you get to do those validation calls and talk to the franchisees, and you get to learn exactly, there's a big range of performers within a system, and you get to talk to all those people and hear their story and really get an idea of what it's going to be like for you, where you can't do that with an independent business. So you made the comment earlier that nothing is ever risk-free. Absolutely. It's not. But I think with franchising, you're mitigating some of that risk by the amount of research that you do. And I think you felt that when you went through this process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is, you go from a 50-50 to, 80-20. And those aren't bad odds.
No.
I would take that in Vegas any day, right?
Absolutely. Well, out of respect for your time, we're coming up on the 30 minutes. So I'm going to stop the recording shortly, but I want to just end with, for anybody watching this, do you have any final thoughts or comments that you want to share?
The only thing I would leave this, if you're at that point where, you're looking at deciding on making a move, all I can say is that align yourself with trusted people. Align yourself with folks that you have some faith in, because a single individual cannot make it happen. You got to have trusted individuals. And I don't know if that's, family, friends, or someone like Roxanne, but you got to have people that you can trust. You got to have people that you can bounce off the idea, that can really kind of dig into the numbers with you. So surround yourself with individuals that have your best interest.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael, for your time again today.
Thank you.